Hey everybody, Mike here from Mike's Computer Tips. Today I want to talk a little about gaming systems, what you need to build a gaming system, and some important tips. If you're planning on building a gaming system with your son or you're just doing it by yourself, things you need to know beforehand. If you're going to build a gaming system, you have to do a budget. First, see how much money you have to spend, and then each different part that you're going to need to buy, make sure you have enough money to cover that. The most expensive things that you're going to run into are going to be video card, that's your graphics card, and your CPU. Those are the two most expensive things that are going to happen, cost you, so make sure you have enough money for those. Then you have to figure out what kind of gaming system you're going to build. Is this going to be Intel, AMD? Because determining which you go with, Intel or AMD, that's going to determine what motherboard you're going to use. Now, I would recommend using an MSI or an Asus motherboard. Those are great for gaming. Those are high-end motherboards, and look into that. And also, if you're going to do AMD, you will save about $50 on the builds. AMD processors in general are about $50 cheaper than Intel. So if you're looking to save money, you're going to want to go with AMD because you're going to get more for your money, and it's going to be a little bit less expensive. You have to pick out the memory, how much you're going to use, the motherboard. You're going to have to look for a case. That's very important. If you're doing a gaming system, you want to try to get the most memory that you can afford, either 2 8s or 32, depending on the slots. You want to have like around six, at least minimum 16 gigs of memory up to 32. You can go to 64 if you can afford it, and your system will support 64. Also, you want to get a decent power supply. Make sure you get at least an 800 watt power supply or a 1000 watt power supply, because if you ever upgrade later, you want to make sure you have enough power to accept that upgrade, to power all the different peripherals and things that you're going to have. You're going to have to pick out a graphics card, a CPU, a motherboard, case, power supply, memory, fan system. Make sure you have adequate fans to make sure you can cool your system down. The most important thing I could tell you when you're building a gaming system is make sure all the parts are compatible with each other. Your motherboard, you want to be compatible with the CPU and everything else, because sometimes people just look for the best parts and those parts may or may not be compatible with each other. So make sure they all will work with each other. And there's websites you can check out compatibility also. So look into that. Make sure you do your homework first before you even buy anything or pick anything out. The lights and things like that are really optional, but you do want to get good fans, good cooling fans that are quiet, and you want to have fans that are taking air out and fans that are bringing air in the computer, and that will keep your computer cooler. And make sure you have a temperature and your temperature gauge, and then you can keep a good eye on how hot your computer's getting, because that's very important. You don't want to get overheated. You also have two choices of CPU fans. You can get a pump, which is a little more expensive. That'll cool your CPU better. Or you can get a regular CPU fan. They're both good. Pumps will cool it a little better, but pumps are not, it's not an exact science. Sometimes the pumps will fail, so you have to keep an eye on the heat of your computer before you set up your computer. After you set up your computer, the last thing you're going to do is you're going to go into the BIOS and make sure all the settings are right. It's seeing your hard drive, it's seeing your memory, and you're doing everything to the specs of the motherboard, all your settings. Okay, everything has to be done correctly. and thoroughly, because you want to make sure everything's going to work. Best thing to do is make sure you know how hot it's getting and what your motherboard specs say that the temperature it should be at. Usually when you run a high-end game, it may run 100 degrees, it may run 80. Check the specs on your motherboard and see what it's supposed to be at. There you are in a nutshell. Gaming computer build, a lot of fun. Pick out the best parts, but the most important thing is know what you're going to use it for before you do it, before you start anything. Search for parts, search for prices, and enjoy yourself. This is Mike from Mike's Computer Tips. See you in the next video. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, like, share. Check out some of my other videos.